Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And we're back today on a Tuesday, and I'm here with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going today, Bill?
Going good. Thank you very much for asking.
All right. So we've got a lot of news today. It always seems our Tuesday one, we always have lots of stuff because we don't do a show for a few days. And
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
yeah, we got like 4 days of news accumulates, and some of it gets to be kind of interesting to see what goes through. So one of the big things, Joe Biden, the current president of the United States, pushes through $635 million in EV charger grants before Trump's return. Now, you had mentioned something to me that Tesla gets a little, they don't get any love from this, but the articles that were available were all behind a paywall that were on that. So I you sent me one article, but that one didn't even discuss the thing with Tesla. And anything else I went searching for, it would be on something that
I apologize for not sending you the accurate link, but
yeah. But anyways, so it's saying here we've got 635 million awarded in charger grants 10 days before Donald Trump takes office, leaving just $700,000 of the 2.5 billion unallocated. So almost all the money has been allocated. I thought that was pretty small amount. I was kind of suspicious that the 700,000 wouldn't have been 700 million, but because I'm under the impression that most of the grants were not appropriated. The grants from the Zero Emission Refueling Infrastructure Program will fund 49 projects that will deploy 11,500 EV charging ports and alternative fuel infrastructure across corridors and communities across 27 states, 4 federally recognized tribes, and the District of Columbia. 368 million allocated to 42 projects that expand EV charging industry within communities across the U.S., while 268 million will go towards 7 projects that build out the national fast charging network along designated alternative fuel corridors. The grants are made possible through the bipartisan infrastructure laws, 2.5 billion charging and fueling infrastructure discretionary grant program, and a 10% set aside from the $5 billion NEVI program. Now, the NEVI program is the one that's caught some flack because not a whole lot of chargers have been set up yet from that. So hopefully that'll get deployed here soon.
Slowly. I think, who was it, Wisconsin or somebody opened their first one here a week or so ago. So it's happening. It's just, not at the pace that I think most of us would like to see. But we want the money spent wisely.
Yeah. Well, here's a number that I think is quite useful. There are currently approximately 70,000 charging stations with 197,000 charging ports. So 70,000 stations, 197,000 ports, so about 3 ports on average for every place where there's chargers. The Biden administration had set a goal of building out 500,000 publicly available chargers by 2030. So we're at 40% of that number with 5 years to go. Yeah, it doesn't seem terribly difficult. Since the election, the Biden administration has been rushing to distribute clean energy funding in response to Trump's threats to claw it back. Once the funds are allocated, reclaiming them will be nearly impossible. Now, what they didn't talk about here was the Tesla thing. So I'm assuming none of these have been allocated to NACS chargers.
Well, that I don't know. What they were referring to was there was $100 million that was requested to build out a fast charging network specifically for heavy duty over the road EVs, specifically, those the semis built by Tesla. And those were the ones, that particular request for grant funds was denied. That's all I can tell you that I know.
Okay. So it was basically the mega chargers for the semis.
Mega chargers for the semis, yes.
Yeah, well, who knows? Maybe they felt that was unfair. I don't know. It's interesting to see how some of that plays out. Maybe it'll get approved next week. So we have an inauguration coming up in 6 days. Maybe it'll get approved next week. So you just never know, right?
Well, now think about this. You're a business person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to plan for the future, and you're seeing, well, here's that program and this program, and this one might help us do this, and that one might make it more difficult for us. You got all these decisions. How are you going to plan forward when you have the potential of such a radical change in government policy?
Well, we even saw this where the oil companies are supporting the U.S. to support the Paris Climate Accord because they're trying to make decisions that cost them billions of dollars, and they just assume go with something that everybody's going to fall in line with.
And we have enough influence that we can kind of at least tweak it the way we'd like to see it tweaked, rather than starting all over again.
Yeah, the government isn't a real great custodian of much. I mean, very few people probably just going to say the government does a great job with money. Okay.
I don't know. I would take issue with some of that. Yeah. There's stuff that gets.
I mean, there's obviously a lot of waste in governments, whether it be federal or state or whatever. And I don't know. It's interesting to see some of that. But on the flip side, you need the government to provide certain services. Like, you don't want the military to be privatized, right? There's all kinds of things you certainly wouldn't want to see be privatized.
Yeah, like take a look at what happened with the Wagner Group, and we have that here. There's Blackwater or whatever they're called today.
Yeah, there's private military contractors. But that's okay. But what I'm getting at is you wouldn't want to see the entire government done that way. It's just like the whole thing with private prisons. That's been kind of a weird deal in of itself. There's a few things that privatization, it's kind of seemed like a good idea, but it's not.
Yeah.
They certainly got their issues, but I don't know. At some point, the government has to step in and stimulate investment in certain areas. We see so much flack against the EV industry, but you and I both see the writing on the wall. It's happening, whether people want to believe it or don't believe it. It's going to happen regardless.
Yeah, I saw a headline that I think I posted over the weekend about somebody saying how China is obviously ahead of us, because they saw the handwriting that's their words, the handwriting on the wall. And now we have this, powerful. And again, another headline today is that, a test drive in the BYD Seal proves that the Chinese are ready for prime time,
Well, when they figured out how to make new cars for $5,000 to $10,000, and those are all EVs. And, they're cutting down. China has massive air pollution problems. And
I've been there. I've breathed that air.
People don't want to contribute to the air pollution. So it's a lot easier to get people to participate. But you would think you'd have the same thing here in the United States, people living in cities, wanting to get rid of the air pollution. And I know you and I talked about this. I mean, I've never noticed the air pollution here in Omaha. You say you see it when you go up, on top of like a water tower or something like that.
This was like 20 years ago. Climbed up on our local water tower here in our little community, and there's this thick yellow haze across the city. So you can't see it from the ground, obviously. And
if you're driving by and you see somebody up on top of the water tower and it looks like Bill, make sure you wave or honk.
No, I'm too old to climb the water tower now, buddy.
Honk if you see Bill on the water tower.
Stairs right there, right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but anyways, but I, so you don't see the same urgency. But if you go to like Vegas or LA or all these other cities, they've all got the smog cloud hanging over the city.
Yeah.
And you see it when you start getting close to the city. You can see it like hanging over the city. Whereas out in the countryside, you don't have those just weird
Yeah.
layers of
I
smog.
remember once driving into San Francisco and specifically noticing that haze over San Francisco. So yeah, we don't have that here because we're on the wide open plains and we got winds that blow constantly and keeps and there are no heavy industries to the north of to the north and west of us, which is the predominant direction of wind in this area. So we don't have so much of that. It's if we do have it, it's from city buses, and even those are slowly being converted over to natural gas, or we even have, I think, at least one electric. But diesel trucks and semi trucks and things of that nature that are putting out, and then of course just a typical automobile.
Right, right. But anyways, let's move on. Let's talk about we got a few Tesla stories today. So one of the big ones, Tesla sold more cars than Audi in 2024.
Yeah.
The Model 3 and the Model Y outsold the entire Audi lineup, and that moved them to the 13th best-selling car brand in the world. Mind you, the Model Y ended up coming in second last year. The Toyota Corolla edged it out again.
Mm-hmm.
But the Corolla for years is the number one selling car in the world. Tesla edged it out in 2023 and was like 0.5% behind it in 2024.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really close. But in 2024, Tesla shipped 1.789 million vehicles, which was 118,000 more than Audi. Now, Audi's actually part of the Volkswagen group, but this is, piecing it out separately. Tesla only has 5 car models: the 3, the Y, the S, the X, and the Cybertruck. The 3 and the Y generated 1.7 million of the 1.789 million. There was only 85,000 Teslas sold that weren't 3s or Ys. Okay, so the S, the X, and the Cybertruck don't make up a very large part of. It was 85,000 vehicles. I think the Cybertruck was only like 30,000 vehicles or something like that. And the funny thing is, for Tesla, it seems like the Cybertruck is taking sales away from the S and the X.
Yeah, there's an article actually to that effect that I posted today that makes that case that it's harming the sales of the Tesla's two original. It wouldn't be surprising with that. I think at some point they'll just get rid of the X, and come up with an alternative. I mean, case in point, the Y, the Juniper model, starts production in Europe this week, and they began producing 2 weeks ago. They began producing the Juniper at the Shanghai plant. So we're seeing model refresh and things like that are taking place, and that wouldn't surprise me if they'll make a call and say, no, the reason the X is there is because it's a larger version of the Y.
Yes.
So people want that, but it wouldn't surprise me that the guys in the design shop there are probably working on a minivan replacement for the X. I could see that happening. I mean, I think there's still a market for that type of vehicle. I mean, the Volkswagen Buzz, demonstrates that there's demand for that kind of a vehicle. So it wouldn't surprise me that at some point we'll see a promised Tesla I don't know, what would you call it? Tesla V for van.
Yeah, one of my friends was telling me he's past the 200,000 mark on his Model X. I think he has a 18 model. He
Okay.
drives a lot, and he does a lot of road trips. I mean, a lot of road trips, and he's never complaining about charge times or anything like that. The thing is, he's always got work to do or phone calls to make or take a nap or whatever when you're at a charger. I mean, you just figure out how to make that fit into your schedule if you're, having to stop at a charger somewhere. But now in his case, he had 2 battery packs replaced under warranty. Okay. He hasn't, his only things he's paid for outside of warranties, he's had air conditioning problems that he had to have fixed twice.
Okay.
So, but otherwise, pretty good experience. I didn't know this, but one of my friends was telling me that he had a Rivian R1S, and it was interesting because he had some complaints about it. And his main complaint was the lack of USB ports. And I thought that was kind of funny. Otherwise, he likes it, but he said it has no USB ports. It has wireless charging ports for your phones if you have wireless capable phones. But if you wanted to hook something else up, that it's not happening.
I would suspect if RJ's listening, they'll add a port somewhere. I mean, that would be trivial to.
You'd think, but
it would probably cost them a few $100,000, but they could add a,
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like that's an odd reason. It'd be like saying, well, because it didn't have a cassette deck.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying the USB is outdated. Okay, it's not, but it was kind of a strange issue he has with his R1S.
Well, I don't want to upgrade my Mac here because all new Macs don't have CD drives.
Right. There you go. You missed your CD-ROM drive.
I missed my CD-ROM drive. I get a little box like that runs circles around this machine, but it doesn't have a CD-ROM drive.
Yeah. Now you got to switch it out with little thumb drive. I have a little drive that goes on a keychain around here somewhere that's a full terabyte.
Oh yeah, it's just amazing.
I mean, it's just staggering to think that this tiny little thing that goes on my keychain will hold a terabyte of data.
Yeah, exactly.
When it's not misplaced, it really needs to be a little larger. It's actually too small.
It's too small because it's too easy to lose or misplace.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, then you buy an Apple button, whatever they call those things, and you just attach that to the keychain side of it, and then you'll know where it is all the time.
Yeah. Well, what's kind of interesting is some of the talk about Tesla and their sales. I see people saying, "Oh, Tesla sales are down or whatever." They actually did. I think they sold less cars in. I think they actually sold less cars in 24 than they did in 23 by just a hair, but I think they were more profitable.
Well, I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, but it's interesting because everybody wants to talk, about full numbers. Do they even make CDs anymore? I don't know. I bet there's still some stuff pressed out there. I have, from when I used to do some things in real estate, I used to mail out CD audios to people. And I have this device that replicates CDs out of my garage, and I'm unwilling to throw it in the trash. I have zero use for it. I have all these blanks for it, that I can print on. It actually will both copy a CD and print a label on the CD.
Yeah, right.
And all of that. And I haven't used it in years, but I refuse to throw it away because I spent so much money on the damn thing and it still works.
Take you back in this closet over here and show you my racks of old equipment that I've been doing this for 27 years. So I always had to have the newest equipment, and then it gets obsolete. So there's all sorts of boxes back here.
Yeah. Oh, it's just terrible. Yeah, and I have all kinds of blank CDs I could print to or whatever. Yeah, it's sad. Um, anyways, so Tesla is shifting some Cybertruck workers to other positions because Cybertruck sales aren't kind of what they expected. The other thing is, if you were a truck buyer, and you're really a truck buyer, okay? So we're in Nebraska. Lots of people drive trucks just because they think they're cool, right?
Yeah.
Most people don't drive trucks because they needed a truck. Okay. Now you got a lot of blue collar workers that do work that they need a truck. Okay. And if you were going to do that kind of work, considering almost all the EV trucks are about the same price, I'd probably drive a Silverado, knowing what I know. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to make some glowing endorsement of one over the other. I love Ford. Okay. Ford is one of my favorite brands ever. I've always been a kind of a loyal Ford person. I've owned so many just personal Fords and fleet vehicles. I've always bought Fords for fleet vehicles and stuff like that. But the Silverado has, if I'm actually doing work, doing construction, I'm towing a trailer around, it can um, it's far more capable tower because of the way the battery is designed. It doesn't blow all of the truck's range. The Chevy trucks have a bit of an advantage. Oh, you know what? I saw a Hummer pickup truck, EV, driving around with drive out tags a couple days ago on 680. So
Hello,
yeah,
Mary. This
oh,
is Bill Moore. I was wondering if you could put me through to your truck division advertising department. We'd love to get your endorsement because we're really talking about your pickups.
right, right. Yeah, I'm just saying though, the people that went and bought the Cybertruck were buying it because it's cool. It's the latest thing out there. You can't help but know what it is when it's coming down the street, right?
You got to
Yeah,
notice it.
yeah, and so it's a lot like, so the Model X kind of had that same appeal, but when the Model S came out, which it was the original cool looking EV, okay, then the X came out, but you still were catering to a luxury car market with those vehicles. The Cybertruck is doing that as well. Obviously, the 3 and the Y. So I was watching some guys interviewing Doug DeMuro a couple days ago, and they were asking for advice. If you're trying to get a reasonable car to be your commuter, what would you tell people to go get? And he said Model Y. And the reason was because the low cost of, the lack of needing to do maintenance on the vehicle. It's not it's not super expensive. The fact that it's just super cheap to operate. Never mind, they weren't talking about the fact that, hey, is this green? Are we saving the planet? He wasn't talking about any of those things. It's just saying it's just a better choice.
Yep. And the average car price is what, $48,000 now?
Yeah.
Average gas car price is $48,000.
Right.
You've got to put all the maintenance and stuff that goes on top of that to maintain it. So yeah, why not?
Yeah, and there's a lot of decent EVs now that are well below that price. Because when we first start, even when you and I first started doing this show, we were still up around $60,000 for the average EV.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, in a year and a half period, we've seen those prices just plummet. Now they're making some less expensive cars. The car companies are making less profit probably on those cars. Is what I figure, but they are bringing them to the masses.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but anyways, the lead thing though was that Tesla outsold Audi, and they're only a little bit behind Mercedes now for moving up to number 12. One of the interesting things in the EV space that I thought was a pretty good article, it was about the Ford Mustang.
Oh yeah, that was a shot. That was an eye opener for me. I did not.
Yeah.
That's why
So
I wanted to focus on it. Yeah.
there's the regular traditional gas powered Ford Mustangs, and
Are you
is
old enough to remember when that got introduced and made it on the cover. I think it was Time Magazine with Lee Iacocca. This is what, 64?
Yeah, I'm not that old.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. But
Yeah, I was
remember
born
that,
since then.
I remember that all the hype and the excitement that was built around the rollout of that first Mustang, and the big controversy was the pony was running in the wrong direction, right?
Oh wow.
Because the horse's head is pointed to the, let's see, if you're looking at the car, it's pointed to the right side of the car, but horses race in the opposite direction. And that was the big brouhaha there initially on this thing. Of course, Lee Iacocca got a huge bump because he was kind of the guy that was pushing and promoting it, and he found himself eventually, of course, over at Chrysler when Chrysler was still a company. But yeah, that was great little car. People fell in love with it. They sold tons of them, and now in my lifetime, it is becoming passe, being surpassed and replaced by an electric Mustang, which is just exciting for me and probably galls a lot of gearheads. But hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, so Ford's selling more electric Mustangs now than gas Mustangs, at least in 2024. I don't have the actual numbers, but that's really kind of surprising because I don't think they should have called the Mach-E a Mustang.
Well,
I,
yeah.
I but I think Mach-E is fine, but we see them everywhere now.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, they're really a popular
Just
alternative to the Model Y.
almost as common as the Model Y. Yeah. No, I think the numbers is something like 1.7 million. 1.7 million Mach-E's to 1.6.
No. You're comparing. That's the Tesla versus Audi.
Well, okay. So
Yeah. So I would suspect it's probably more like 6,700 versus 5,000.
Oh no! It was much more than that. Let me see if I can find it. So just keep talking away, and I'll do a little searching here.
All right. So there is a company has made a Tesla Cybertruck wrap that's made from solar cells that power an onboard battery pack for about $10,000. And I'm going to assume this adds maybe 20 miles of range, but let's see here. It says solar cell efficiency. So originally in 2017, Musk said they were looking at trying to integrate solar cells on the Model 3, but they concluded it wasn't worthwhile. But stuff has gotten better. Oh, so the wrap. Okay. So when the Cybertruck was launched, Musk said that there would be a solar roof option that could add 15 miles of range per day. Then they filed a patent showing solar cells embedded inside the retractable tonneau cover.
All right.
But they haven't released that. They haven't actually released that. But a third party made a solar wrap for the entire truck. The company's called California Sunflare Solar. And they've wrapped it. It'll produce up to 1.5 kilowatts of solar power. It would at a similar range, about 15 miles a day to the Cybertruck. I mean, it's not really a lot, but considering how much the average EV driver drives, it might be most of your consumption.
Yeah.
At least half of it. So that's
by the way,
I don't know.
I found those numbers. It's the lead story today on EV World.
Oh, you found okay.
Yeah,
go ahead.
51,700, something like that. Mach-E's, 44,000 traditional Mustangs.
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't know they were still making gas Mustangs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I don't follow. I don't go trolling through car lots or anything like that. So I'm not seeing you know.
Well, hey, I learned something. Saeed said, "Well, you were talking about the Honda Prologue." He said, "Did you realize, of course, that that's a GM platform?" And I said, "Well, I wasn't aware of that." So he did a little research and sent me a link, and apparently the Prologue is built on the Ultium, if that's how it's pronounced,
Mhm.
platform, which is the same platform that is used for the Cadillac Lyric. Now, they don't look anywhere the same, but the underlying powertrain, chassis, whatever you want to call it, is they're identical vehicles.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
thanks, Saeed. Appreciate it.
Well, one of the things I think that's coming up is, so Honda is a name synonymous with quality. Honda engines are supposed to run forever, right?
Yeah. I've owned one.
And one of the unique things about
No,
EVs, I
sure.
well, one of the unique things about EVs is sort of leveling the playing field in certain quality aspects. Okay. So while there are issues, let's say with battery technology, most of the companies are going to be using the same batteries. Most companies are not necessarily making their own batteries. Some are, some aren't. But I'll give you an example. We're about to see a Range Rover EV coming out.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, Range Rover is synonymous with being a brand that spells expensive service calls. Okay. So most people lease Range Rovers so that they never have to perform any work on them.
Right.
And so what happens is at the end of those
After
leases,
3 years, they can get rid of it. So,
yeah, at the end of a 3-year lease, that Range Rover's worth like 40% of what it was new.
yeah.
And it's not unusual to find a like about a 6-year-old Range Rover for about 20% of the original price because they're so expensive to repair.
Yeah.
They're such an alligator on your pocketbook. But when you start looking at a Range Rover EV, you start taking away so many systems that could break down on the Range Rover, putting in an EV. I think you're going to have a whole different version of that. And Range Rover has an excellent perception for being high end.
Yeah.
Okay. They've had over 60,000 pre orders already for their upcoming EV. So, when you think about that, that's more than what the Mach E sold last year. So it's going to be a pretty big hit for Range Rover to be selling EVs. But I find that fascinating because you talk about the thing with GM and Honda. Well, that Ultium platform is probably similar quality to what Honda is known for. Okay. And GM isn't known for the same quality, but the fact that we're in the EV space is going to change a lot of that. Now, obviously, GM was challenged a lot with Bolt batteries, but GM's come a long ways in
Yeah.
developing batteries now.
Yeah. I'm sure they've learned, they've learned their lessons.
Oh yeah, no question. And so I think you're going to see a whole lot of just changes in how some of that goes. All right. So let's talk about more Joe Biden. Biden administration finalizes U.S. crackdown on Chinese vehicles.
And
Oh, Biden's administration is finalizing rules on Tuesday that will effectively bar nearly all Chinese cars and trucks from the U.S. market as part of a crackdown on vehicle software and hardware from China. Now, um, they're also talking about a similar crackdown on Chinese drones. And um, it's funny, they don't ever talk about buses because we do have BYD buses here in the
there
United
is, yeah,
States. But
they have in that those rulings that are not completely out yet because I couldn't find any actual details about them.
mhm.
They did exempt vehicles over, I think it was over 10,000 pounds, something like that. So basically,
Ah,
they're allowing BYD to continue to manufacture and sell its buses here. So
oh,
yeah,
that's actually addressed in the article. The U.S.
yes,
Commerce Department said it's exempting the BYD buses so they can continue to make them in California.
yep.
Um, let's see. General Motors could potentially continue to import some Chinese-made vehicles for U.S. buyers. I don't know what vehicles they might be importing.
Buicks.
Oh, are Buicks made in China?
There are a lot
I
of the
know. I
Buicks.
know they make Buick EVs in China. I didn't know.
I know that a lot of the Buicks are made in China. It's my
Oh, okay.
understanding. Again, please, listeners, correct me if I'm wrong, but my impression is that some of those Buicks that we get here in this country are coming out of factories in China. And of course, GM has partnership with Wuling. They make a really nice little, cute little city class EV over there.
Mhm.
But again, will those be allowed in the country? We have to see, because they're writing the rules, and I haven't seen the official publication of them yet.
Okay. It just what we haven't seen. Remember, the Volvo EX30 was coming to the U.S. There was all those orders originally supposed to hit the U.S. because it was basically it's a Chinese-made vehicle that's a Volvo that was going to be able to escape the tariff rules because Volvo does so much manufacturing in the United States that it exports from the United States.
Right. And the same question on the Polestar vehicles. Polestar is concerned that their vehicles may be banned from sale in the U.S. I think they're working on some kind of a workaround for that. Again, maybe something similar to what they're doing for Volvo, because they're essentially, similar. They were originally one company and it got spun off and bought by the Chinese. So, I'm sure that there are people in the company in DC that are, trying to make sure that the rules are written such a way that it gives them a little window. So it has to do with who maintains the vehicles. I think that's part of the rules. If the vehicles are not only manufactured but they are maintained here in the U.S. by U.S. companies, then they'll allow them in. So that may be the angle that they're working on is, hey, we have dealerships here and we're maintaining those vehicles here in the United States. We're maintaining, and I think it has a lot to do with who is writing and responsible for the computer code that goes into the cars. So that might be the workaround that they'll find for a company like Polestar or for Volvo.
So I did a little research here, but apparently their Volvo was claiming they'd get a few released here in the U.S. before the end of 24, but I can't find anything confirming that actually happened. So I'm curious if anybody knows. Feel free to leave us a comment about that, because that would be interesting to know if anybody actually got their EX30s, because we expect that just to be a crazy selling vehicle here in the U.S. It's they're twin motor versions, $46,000, 422 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3.4, 253 mile per hour range. I mean, it's cheaper than the Toyota SUV EVs. It's Volvo, which is a name synonymous with safety.
Right.
And, there's a lot of, it's considered to be a more luxury vehicle by being Volvo. And so it'll be interesting to see where that plays out. I mean, I know it's selling well in Europe, but I haven't seen any of them here in the US yet. So anyways, now we were talking off thing right now. It's funny to think about some of the stuff here. So Bill and I live in Nebraska. We really don't see a lot of EVs here in Nebraska. It's not common. Like you go to the West Coast and you see the Teslas and everything everywhere. We were talking before we came on the show. Our production team lives in India, and where they live, they're having the world's largest accumulation of people. It's a Hindu pilgrimage to these rivers, and they expect 400 million people to show up over a 45-day period, all to go take a dip in the water in these rivers. And I mean,
So we're chiding our staff over there. Why didn't you tell us about this earlier? And we could start selling EV World T-shirts.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure there'd be all the rage. We'd have a little slogan in Hindi on there of some sort.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So
But
that's amazing. That's that's got to be larger than the Hajj. You know, going to
I'm sure it is.
much bigger than the Hajj.
I mean, it's just so hard to comprehend that. I think about sometimes I've watched Metallica's concert in 1991 in Red Square in the Kremlin, where they attracted like 1.1 million people, and the sea of humanity is just so large.
Wow.
Just so now over 45 days, that means it'd only be, let's say, an average of 8-9 million people a day. But wow, what a lot of people that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
45 days, or is that 10 million? I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever it is a lot of people and a lot of toilets.
Yes. Yes. My understanding is they set up 135,000 toilets for this event. It's like, well, anyways. All right. Well, Bill, that's all I had to cover for today.
Okay.
And I'll be back with Mike Herzog tomorrow, and Bill will be back with me on Thursday.
Yeah.
All right.
Looking forward to it. Have a good one.
All right, folks. Thanks for watching. All right. Bye.